Cookie.
Abraham.
Hey,
and
Cookie.
Hello, Angie.
Hi,
Good to
Consola.
hear from you. We have to get on Zoom to catch up with one another.
Cookie.
Abraham.
Hey,
and
Cookie.
Hello, Angie.
Hi, Cons. You are already on Zoom, so I'm pretty sure you will catch up very soon. Glad to see everyone here, and glad to see that some of you actually were able to connect to YouTube, and you were nice enough to allow other people to jump into the tour. We are right now at 935. Stalin, could I see Plague 7 again? I went to get water. I'm going to finish the tour, and then I'm going to get back to that, okay? All righty. Since we have more people now that we did not have at the beginning of the tour, this is just an opportunity for you to take a picture of my schedule for the next 2 weeks. The next Sunday is going to be Esther, a Queen and an Empire, and next Monday is going to be from Saul of Tarsus to Paul, the Apostle to the Nation. Here's a video about Esther. Hey friends, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have a fantastic trip scheduled for April the 1st to the 11th, and I'm going to show you a review that somebody gave to us about our last trip in September. Please listen. Thank you, Millie. Thank you, Gary, for agreeing to talk to us about the Spain experience trip. Do you have any comments?
This is our 53rd anniversary year.
Wow!
So we saved our celebration for here. So it really was the best anniversary ever.
Look at that.
Like she said. Yes, we really, really enjoyed it. We latched onto it as soon as we saw it on the website and have enjoyed every minute.
Yeah. And there was always something to learn. So it was mentally stimulating, and it inspired me to look up some information that, like even this morning, that Jose was talking historically about this place. And so it's fascinating to go and dig a little bit deeper, and we'll remember it that much more.
Indeed, indeed. Well, thank you very much and happy anniversary. And we hope to see you soon on another trip with my virtual Bible tour. There you go, my friends. There you go. We had a fantastic time, and we are inviting you to do the same. Jumping back on the tour, we left plague number 8, and now we are in one of the most impressive plagues of all. Can anybody help me read what happened, what took place on plague number 9? And let me see. Adrian Wade.
It says, Moses immediately stretched out his hand toward the heavens, and there was dense darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. They did not see one another, and none of them got up from where they were for 3 days. But all the Israelites had light in their dwellings.
Yep. Imagine being able to see the sun on the side of the Israelites. Do they need more evidence that Jehovah was with them? Did the Israelites need evidence that Jehovah was with them? Simply amazing. Simply amazing. Friends, when we think about the God of light, we have the God Ra from Amun Ra. We have Horus, where the word horoscope comes from. And we have again the God Thor, the Loki God. So Jehovah is increasing the humiliation on all these gods. And when you see this, we learn more about the god Amun Ra, the god that actually appears. Some of the friends are saying, hey, you did not display a picture for plague number 8. Plague number 8 was the locust. That video that I show you was the locust before we went on the break. But the god Amun Ra is also connected to plague number 10. Why? Amun Ra was the biggest Egyptian god there was. When you hear the name King Tut, most people my age will call him King Tut Ankh Ammon, which is the most powerful Egyptian god. Something similar would be to call him Zeus, as the Greeks will call their god. What you see on the screen right now are all the temples dedicated to the god Amun Ra. And here is a 3D rendering that was created with all the ruins that I showed you earlier. Take a look at this. And this is what a biblical archaeology can do. We cannot use our imagination to imagine how big the temple was, but using the ruins from the pictures that I showed you earlier, some people who are very good with computers, they could actually build the temple as it may have seen before. Take a look at this video now here. You see the rendering of the before and after. It's simply fascinating what computers can do. This is how it looks today, and this is how it may have looked before. This is how it looks today, and this is how it may have looked before. The temple to the god Amun Ra was a big deal. Before, amazing, isn't it? Anyway, so why are we talking so much about Amun Ra? Well, it is important that we talk about him because Amun Ra is represented by an animal that we call the ram. R-A-M, ram. Why is this animal important? It is important because it is the animal that Jehovah will instruct the Israelites to kill in order for them to use the blood to mark the door frame of the house so that the angel will pass over the house. And this is why this celebration is called Passover. That night, one of the instructions was to mark the doorpost, but it was also to eat in a very peculiar way. They needed to eat, dress up, standing up, with their back ready. So can you imagine what that may have been? They needed to kill the animal that represented the highest god in Egypt. And here's a picture depicting people eating, standing up, eating what Jehovah has instructed them to do. As they're doing that, the angel started doing his work. All the firstborn, including the one from the Pharaoh, faced this horrible situation that could have been avoided. But they did not. They did not listen. Jehovah gave them an opportunity. Jehovah gave them a chance to redirect their options. Here's another video that I found while I was watching an Smithsonian channel about the Temple of Ammon. Please pay attention to what this documentary have to say about what we just discussed.
The Great Temple of Ammon. The temple was constructed over 3,000 years ago under the successive reigns of several different pharaohs. Its massive halls and courtyards are separated by towering processional gateways. This was the home of the most important deity in ancient Egypt, Ammon. For the pharaohs based in the nearby city of Thebes, Ammon was the king of the gods, responsible for fertility and creation. And the ancients believed that he had saved their land from domination by foreign invaders. They trusted in Ammon to keep Egypt safe, fertile, and prosperous. The god's wife's most important role is to attend to the earthly needs of Ammon. Ancient Egyptians believed that the god leaves the heavens and visits the inner sanctum of the great temple. Here, the god's wife provides him with food and other necessities. In return, Ammon will continue to protect Egypt and ensure that the land remains fertile and flourishing.
Isn't it great when you can use secular information to support what you already know from the Bible? It's really, really exciting. At the beginning of the tour and towards the middle of it, I mentioned that Jehovah causes to become, and we have seen it throughout this tour. Well, before the Israelites left Egypt, what did Jehovah do to make things fair? Jehovah asked the Israelites to take all the items that the Egyptians will give them. Were they plundered or were they stripped? No. According to the inside scripture, it was payment for the time that they were captive or they were slave. So Jehovah makes sure that they got the retribution for the work that they did before. Nothing escaped Jehovah. Nothing. Jehovah moved the Egyptians to give everything they have, silver, gold, as well as clothing. Remember, a great nation serving a God. Jehovah, he causes to become. So in one night, the Israelites went from being enslaved to being free, from being poor to being rich, from being deprived to being protected, all by the only true and most powerful God of the universe, Jehovah. And everything Jehovah does, he does it in style. For example, the Bible tells us that in this group that left Egypt, there was 600,000 men. And obviously, they did not count the women. So we can imagine that the group was a lot larger. And verse 38 says that there was a vast mixed company also went with them. Who is the vast mixed company? The Egyptians that were convinced that Jehovah is the true God. Let's clarify something that really confuses the friends. When you ask them, hey, how long were they slaves? And people say, 430 years. Well, that's not actually accurate. Yes, the Bible says that they dwell in Egypt for 430 years, but that doesn't mean that the 430 years that they were in Egypt, they were slaves. Let me explain that to you. Take a look at this chart. Okay? Take a look at this chart. In part one, we talked about Abraham leaving the city of Ur in the year 1943. When you go from 1943 to the year 1513, those are the 430 years. The moment Abraham entered Egypt, the clock started to run. So the question is, how long were they slaves in Egypt? Well, we're not exactly sure. Why? The Bible tells us that Jacob and his family moved into Egypt in the year 1728. They're not slaves, right? They enter on their own will and they enjoy freedom. And that took place approximately in 215 years. What we do not know is, when did Joseph die? And when did the Pharaoh change his mind? But we have an idea. Moses was about 80 years of age when he helped the Israelites to leave Egypt. So we are thinking that the Israelites must have been slaves for about 100 years. Don't quote me on that, but we can use the age of Moses to more or less have an idea how long they were slaves. Okay? Just wanted to tell that to you. Anyway, reading verse 18 of chapter 13, it says that God made the people go around by the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, but it was, and here's the highlight, it was in battle formation. What does that mean? You have the main group of people in the center, while you have wingman number 1 on the left, wingman number 2 on the right. You have men on the vanguard, and you have men on the rear guard. All the children and women and the elderly will be protected. And this is called battle formation. It is something used by the military to protect the vulnerable one. The Bible is very descriptive of the areas where they left, the areas where they met Moses, because remember, Moses just went down to see the Pharaoh, so he was not with them. They will meet in Sukkot, right? They will go to Esem. They will camp, and it's in this camp that the Pharaoh will change his mind. The Pharaoh will say, what have I done? I need to go chasing them. Those were free employees. So the Pharaoh goes chasing them, and the only way to escape the Pharaoh chase is to actually cross to the other side. But how are they going to do that? I tell you, Jehovah does everything in style. As you heard before, the Pharaoh, after saying, yeah, go ahead, leave, worship Jehovah, he changed his mind and he says, let's bring them back. They belong here. It's like he didn't have enough. And as we're talking about this, we're thinking, Jehovah's people does not have an army. How can they fight the first world power according to the Bible? And they're trapped. There's no way to go. what does history tells us about the Egyptian army? Number one, they were cruel. As you see on the picture on the screen, you see a bunch of bodies without head, and you see in the left-hand side, you see the head of someone being, or he's being hurt with a chisel or a nail. Completely brutal. Or in the case where many of the enemies, so that they cannot rebel against the Egyptians, they will cut the hands of all the enemies, as you see here on the screen. So, how would you feel if you have 600 war chariots, you have 50,000 men on horses, and you have 200,000 soldiers on foot? How would you feel? How would you feel if you hear this? How would you feel? Well, you do not need to guess. We only need to read the account in Exodus chapter 14, verse 10, 11, 13, and 14. When Pharaoh got closer, the Israelites raised their eyes and saw the Egyptians pursuing them. The Israelites became terrified and began to cry out to Jehovah. They said to Moses, "Is it because there are no burial places in Egypt that you have brought us here to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us by leading us out of Egypt?" How would you have reacted at this? But we can tell that Moses was a spiritual man, because take a look how he responded. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. And I want you to look for that phrase in the JW Library app on your Bible. Look for that phrase, do not be afraid, and put on the chat how many times the phrase, do not be afraid, appears on the Bible. When you look for it, make sure exact match is not checked, and make sure you select all verses so that you can get the right answer. Do not be afraid, Moses said to these people. Stand firm and see the salvation of Jehovah, that he will perform for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you will never see again. Jehovah himself will fight for you, and you will keep silent. One of the most impressive miracles the Bible had registered, he separated the water of the Red Sea. It was wide enough for what some have calculated to be the population of Puerto Rico, or about 2 to 3 million people. And as they're crossing, the pillar of fire, who was also the pillar of smoke, will be on the end, confusing the Egyptians and retaining them. From 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., when it is the darkest at night, Jehovah is illuminating the way. And I see many of you friends are finding the right answer 437 times. Make sure you put do space not space be space afraid, and that you use the study Bible. Exact match unchecked, all verses. After all the Israelites have crossed to the other side, saved and sound, Jehovah gives Moses the sign, and Moses closes the Red Sea, and all the Egyptians are trapped in it. Friends, there has been many internet articles stating that they have found proof that what happened at the Dead Sea was discovered at the bottom of the Red Sea. Do not believe the hype. Do not believe the hype. Those things were proven to be false. There's one more God that I would like to share with you, is the God of Sekhmet. The god of Sekhmet, which means the powerful one, was worshipped as the bloodthirsty goddess of war. She was seen as the protector of the Pharaoh, and she was the one that led Egypt into battle and probably helped them out to be a world power. Some of the titles include Mistress of Dread, Lady of Slaughter. But what a dreadful defeat it was for Sekhmet and the Pharaoh's army to die at the Red Sea. And to be honest, this is quite surprising because cats don't like water. The pictures that you see on the screen are pictures from the Louvre and pictures from the Met. The Louvre has 3 pyramids made of crystal right outside of the Louvre, because they have one of the largest Egyptian gallery in the world. The Met has the largest Egyptian gallery outside of Egypt. What do the Israelites do when they cross to the other side? They sing praise to Jehovah. And what's interesting about that praise is that that song is the song we call the victory song that we sing in our meetings. Isn't that beautiful? Jehovah, the creator of music. He deserves all the glory and the honor because he created everything. Friends, I started the tour talking about Abraham and about the Abrahamic pact. But now let's read Revelation chapter 15, verse 3. Can anybody help me? I see Anita Wells from Ruse Bluff. I don't know what that is. Anita, would you please read Revelation chapter 15, Revelation or Apocalypse chapter 15, verse 3.
Okay. And I saw something like a sea of glass mingled with fire, and those who are victorious over the wild beast and its image and the number of its name were standing by the sea, holding up harps of God. And by the way, that is supposed to be Red Bluff. That is a terrible typo on my part.
Okay, no problem. What they were doing? What were these men doing? According to Revelation, they were singing the song of Moses, the slave of God, and the song of the Lamb. Isn't that beautiful? The anointed in heavens are singing the song that Miriam was singing when they crossed the Red Sea. You see, friends, we started the tour, part 1, reading about Genesis chapter 12, verse 2 and 3, where Jehovah told Abraham, I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you will become a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who calls down evil on you. And here's the point. and all the families on the ground will certainly be blessed by means of you. Jehovah gives Abraham this promise. Yes, we have seen how Jehovah has fulfilled his promise. He showed Abraham that he causes to become. Yes, Abraham left Ur in 1943. Jehovah told him, I will make you a great nation. And that's exactly what Jehovah did. That was in 1943. Nicene 14, 1943. In Nicene 14, 1513, there is a great nation of about 2 million people who became literally free. But then, on Nicene 14, year 33, more became free. But not free in the literal sense, free in a more fulfilling way. Did Jehovah fulfill his promise? Absolutely, he did so. But wait, there's more. Genesis chapter 2, verse 18 says, and by means of your offspring, we're talking about Abraham, all nations of the earth will obtain a blessing for themselves, because you, Abraham, have listened to my voice. Yes, friends, you and I are under the Abrahamic covenant. It is an everlasting covenant, as it is stated on Genesis 22:18. While the Abrahamic covenant had a literal fulfillment for the descendants of Abraham when they inherited the promised land, the scriptures shows that the terms of that covenant also have a spiritual fulfillment. As the Abrahamic covenant promised, the offspring of the woman of Genesis 3:15 will bring blessings to mankind. So part of that has not yet been fulfilled. We are waiting for the fulfillment of Genesis 22:18. It remains in effect until the Messianic kingdom destroys God's enemy and all the families of the earth has been blessed. In fact, those who will then live on earth will benefit in an everlasting way. God's covenant with Abraham shows that Jehovah is determined to fulfill his purpose, that righteous humans fill the earth. Jehovah, he causes to become. Every lover of righteousness who reads the inspired scriptures and who truly comes to know with understanding of the full meaning of Jehovah's name has every reason, therefore, to love and bless that name, to praise it and exalt it, to fear it and sanctify it, to trust in it, because our loving Father, Jehovah, he causes to become. Thank you, dear friends.